The trading outpost on 7 smelled like rust and old fuel. Danny Cole had been to worse places during his years hauling cargo across the frontier, but this moon always made him uncomfortable. Too many species doing too many deals that nobody wanted to talk about. He just wanted to pick up his shipment and leave. Danny walked past the main trading hall where a dozen different aliens argued over prices and contracts. His boots echoed on the metal floor as he headed toward the cargo bay where his freight waited. The sooner he loaded the quiet dawn and got back into open space, the better. He was halfway to his destination when he heard the sound. It was soft, almost hidden beneath the constant hum of the station's air recyclers. A whimper, something small and afraid. Danny stopped walking. He had learned a long time ago to mind his own business on stations like this. Getting involved in other people's problems was a good way to end up dead or broke or both. But the sound came again, and something in his chest would not let him walk away. He followed the noise around a corner and into the narrow alley behind the waste disposal units. The smell here was worse, a mix of rotting food and chemical cleaners that burned his nose. And there, pressed against the cold metal wall, was a girl. She was not human. Danny could see that immediately. Her skin was pale blue, almost white in the dim light. She had 4 thin arms wrapped around her body, and her large dark eyes watched him with pure terror. She was young, maybe the equivalent of a teenager in human years, and she was clearly dying. Her clothes were torn and dirty. He could see wounds on her arms that had not been treated. Her body was so thin that he could count her ribs through the fabric. She had been here for a long time without food or care. Danny crouched down slowly, keeping his hands where she could see them. He had dealt with enough frightened creatures in his life to know that sudden movements would only make things worse. "Hey there," he said softly, "I'm not going to hurt you." The girl pressed herself harder against the wall. She said something in a language Danny did not understand, her voice cracked and weak. "Do you speak Galactic Common?" Danny asked. She hesitated, then nodded slightly. "Good, that is good." Danny stayed very still. "My name is Danny, I am a human. What is your name?" The girl watched him for a long moment. Her dark eyes searched his face for something, though Danny did not know what. Finally, she spoke in broken common that was barely above a whisper. "I am called." "Okay, can you tell me what happened to you? Why are you here alone?" His face changed. The fear was still there, but now it mixed with something else. Shame, deep, terrible shame that made her look away from him. "My family," she said, "they left me here." Danny felt his stomach tighten. "Left you? What do you mean they left you?" "I am defective," held up her 4 arms. "Are born with 6 arms, I have only 4, I am incomplete, a burden. My family brought me here 3 weeks ago and walked away. They expect me to die and save them from shame." For a moment, Danny could not speak. He had seen many terrible things in his travels across the galaxy. He had witnessed wars and disasters and cruelty of every kind. But this was different. This was a family abandoning their child to starve because she was born different. "Your parents did this." His voice was harder than he intended. "Your own mother and father." Nodded. "It is our way. The defective ones are released so they do not burden the family. My mother said it was kindness. She said dying alone was better than living as an incomplete thing." Danny stood up. His hands were shaking, though not from cold. He had lost his own daughter years ago in an accident that still haunted his dreams. The idea that parents could choose to throw away their child made something hot and angry burn in his chest. "Can you stand?" he asked. Looked confused. "Why?" "Because I am taking you out of here. I have a ship. I have food and medicine and warm blankets. You are coming with me." "But I am defective. I am not worth saving." Danny knelt down again and looked directly into her eyes. "Listen to me. I do not care how many arms you have. I do not care what your people think about you. Where I come from, we do not abandon children, ever, not for any reason. You understand me?" Stared at him like he was speaking nonsense. Like the words coming out of his mouth were impossible things that could not exist in any real universe. "Humans protect children," Danny continued. "All children, even ones that are not ours, even ones that are different, that is what we do." He held out his hand to her, looked at it for a long time. Then slowly, she reached out with one of her thin blue arms and took it. Danny helped her stand. She was so weak that she could barely walk, so he let her lean against him as they made their way out of the alley. Other aliens watched them pass but said nothing. This was 7, where everyone minded their own business. At the main corridor, an administrator named Consul stepped into their path. He was a short creature with gray skin and too many teeth in his smile. "Human," said, "I must advise you against interfering with internal species matters. They have customs that we do not question here." Danny looked at the consul with cold eyes. "Get out of my way. You do not understand. If her family learns you have taken her, there could be consequences, political difficulties, perhaps violence." I said, "Get out of my way." Something in Danny's voice made the consul step aside. Watched them go with a nervous expression, already calculating how to report this incident to avoid blame. Danny led through the station and onto his ship, the Quiet Dawn. It was not a large vessel, just a standard freight hauler with room for one pilot and plenty of cargo. But it was warm and safe and far away from the garbage heap where a family had left their daughter to die. He settled into the small passenger cabin and brought her water and protein bars. She ate like she had never seen food before, her 4 hands working quickly to push sustenance into her mouth. Danny sat across from her and watched. He did not know what came next. He did not have a plan beyond getting her away from that place, but as looked up at him with those large dark eyes, something that had been dead inside Danny for a very long time began to wake up again. "Thank you," whispered. Danny nodded. "Get some rest, we have a long journey ahead." He walked to the cockpit and began the launch sequence. Behind him, the trading outpost of 7 grew smaller and smaller until it was just another dot of light among the stars. And somewhere out there, a family had no idea that their abandoned daughter was still alive and that a human had decided she was worth saving. The first week aboard the Quiet Dawn was difficult. Spent most of her time hiding in the passenger cabin, flinching whenever Danny came too close. She ate the food he brought her but always waited until he left before touching it. At night, he could hear her crying through the thin walls of the ship. Danny gave her space. He understood fear, and he understood that trust was not something you could force. So he went about his routine, checking the ship's systems and plotting their course toward the human colony world of New Canton. It was a 3-week journey, and he figured that was enough time for the girl to realize he was not going to hurt her. On the 8th day, came out of her cabin while Danny was eating breakfast in the small galley. She stood in the doorway with her 4 arms pressed against her sides, watching him like a frightened animal ready to run. "Good morning," Danny said without looking up from his food. "There is extra if you want some." Hesitated, then slowly walked to the table and sat down across from him. She took a protein bar from the pile and began to eat, her dark eyes never leaving his face. "You have questions," Danny said. "I can see them bouncing around in your head. Go ahead and ask." "Why did you save me?" Danny set down his fork. "Because you needed saving." "But I am nothing to you. I am not your species. I am not your family. I am defective. Why would you risk trouble for something that has no value?" The words hit Danny harder than he expected. Not because they were cruel, but because said them so matter-of-factly, like she was describing the weather, like she truly believed she had no worth. "Where I come from," Danny said slowly, "children have value just because they exist. It does not matter if they are different or difficult or need extra help. A child is a child, and adults protect children. That is the deal." Tilted her head. "The deal with who?" "With the universe, I guess. With ourselves. Humans made a choice a long time ago that our young ones matter more than almost anything else. We fight for them. We die for them. And we definitely do not throw them away because they were born with the wrong number of fingers or arms or whatever. My mother said I was a burden. She said my existence caused shame to our family name. She said releasing me was an act of love because it freed me from a life of being unwanted." Danny felt that hot anger rise in his chest again, but he kept his voice calm. "Your mother was wrong. What she did was not love. It was cruelty dressed up in pretty words." Was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "I was taught that humans are primitive, violent, dangerous creatures who act on emotion rather than logic. My teachers said humans were barely civilized and should be avoided." Danny laughed softly. "Well, we are definitely emotional. I will give them that. But I would rather be an emotional primitive who saves children than a logical advanced species that throws them in the garbage." Something changed in his expression. It was small, just a tiny softening around her eyes, but Danny noticed it. She was starting to see him as something other than a threat. Over the next few days, they began to talk more. Danny taught how to play card games to pass the time, simple ones at first and then more complex ones as she learned the rules. She was smart, much smarter than she gave herself credit for, and she picked things up quickly. In return, told Danny about culture. Her people were obsessed with physical perfection and social standing. Every family was ranked based on the quality of their offspring, and having a defective child could destroy a family's reputation for generations. The practice of releasing incomplete children had existed for thousands of years, and questioning it was considered deeply shameful. Did anyone ever try to change it? Danny asked one evening as they sat in the cockpit watching the stars drift by. Some, long ago, they were silenced. Our elders say that perfection requires sacrifice, that the species grows stronger when the weak are removed. Paused. I used to believe them. When my mother left me on that station, part of me thought I deserved it, that I was being a good daughter by dying quietly. Danny reached over and put his hand on her shoulder. She tensed for a moment, then relaxed. You did not deserve it, he said. Nobody deserves that, and you are not weak. You survived 3 weeks alone on a station where nobody would help you. That takes strength. Looked at him with something new in her eyes. Not fear, not confusion, something warmer. Danny, she said, why do you care so much? I know humans protect children, but I am not a human child. I am alien to you, different. Why does it matter? Danny was quiet for a moment. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small photograph, worn and faded from years of handling. It showed a little girl with brown hair and a gap-toothed smile, standing in a field of yellow flowers. Her name was Lily, Danny said. My daughter. She died 7 years ago in an accident on a cargo run. I was not there when it happened. I was working, trying to make money to give her a better life, and then she was gone. Looked at the photograph with gentle eyes. I am sorry. After she died, I stopped caring about anything. I just flew my routes and did my jobs and tried not to feel anything at all. For 7 years, I was barely alive. Danny put the photograph away. Then I found you, starving and alone, thrown away by people who should have loved you, and something woke up inside me, something I thought was dead forever. What was it? The part of me that knows how to be a father, the part that wants to protect someone, to matter to someone. Danny looked at her. I am not trying to replace Lily. Nobody could do that, but maybe I can help you. Maybe we can help each other. Before it could respond, the ship's communication system crackled to life. A cold, formal voice filled the cockpit, speaking in precise galactic common. Human vessel quiet dawn. This is the enforcement ship righteous path. You are ordered to stop and prepare for boarding. You are carrying property that must be returned for proper release ceremony. Failure to comply will result in military action. His face went pale. My father, that is my father's voice. Danny's jaw tightened. He looked at the sensors and saw the ship approaching fast, much faster than his old freighter could ever hope to match. High Warden, the voice continued. I know you can hear me, human. My family has reconsidered. The defective one's release must be handled officially to restore our honor. Return her now and you will not be harmed. Danny turned off the communication channel. Then he looked at who was trembling with terror. Listen to me, he said firmly. I am not giving you back. Do you understand? No matter what happens, you are not going back to those people. But they have weapons. They will destroy your ship. Danny smiled grimly as he pushed the engines to maximum power and set a course for human space. Then, I guess we better hope we reach the border before they catch us. Behind them, the warship began to close the distance. And ahead, the edge of human-controlled territory waited like a finish line that might as well have been a million light-years away. The quiet dawn shook violently as another warning shot passed too close to the hull. Danny gripped the controls and pushed the old freighter harder than he had ever pushed it before. The engine screamed in protest, and warning lights flashed across the console, but he did not slow down. They are gaining on us, said from the co-pilot's seat. Her voice was steady now, the fear replaced by something colder. Acceptance. Danny, maybe you should just let them take me. I do not want you to die because of me. Not happening, Danny said through gritted teeth. How far to the human border? Check the navigation display. 12 minutes at current speed. They will catch us in 8. Another shot rocked the ship, this one close enough to make the lights flicker. The communication system crackled again with that cold, formal voice. Human, this is your final warning. Cut your engines and prepare for boarding. The defective one belongs to us. She is property under our law, and you have no right to interfere with internal family matters. Danny switched on the communication channel. This is Captain Danny Cole of the Quiet Dawn. The girl you are chasing is not property. She is a living being and she does not want to go with you. I suggest you turn around before this gets ugly. There was a pause, then High Warden spoke again. His voice was puzzled, almost curious. Why do you do this? She is not your offspring, she is not even your species. She is incomplete, defective, worth nothing. Why would you risk your life for garbage? Danny's hands tightened on the controls. Because where I come from, we do not throw away children, and I am going to make sure you never get the chance to hurt her again. Foolish creature, your primitive emotions will be your death. The ship fired again, and this time the shot clipped the Quiet Dawn's rear shields. The whole vessel lurched sideways, and Danny heard something important break somewhere in the engine compartment. Hull integrity at 80%, reported. We cannot take many more hits like that. Danny looked at the navigation display. 6 minutes to the border. The ship was getting closer every second. His old freighter was no match for a military vessel, and they both knew it. But Danny had not survived 20 years in space by giving up easily. He reached for the communication controls and switched to the emergency distress frequency. This is Captain Danny Cole of the civilian freighter Quiet Dawn, broadcasting on all human channels. I am being pursued by a military vessel in neutral space. I have a miner aboard who has been granted my protection, requesting immediate assistance from any human ships in range. For a long moment there was only static. Then a new voice came through the speakers, crisp and professional. Quiet Dawn, this is Commander Grant of the patrol frigate Steadfast. We read your distress call. Hold your current heading. We are moving to intercept. Looked at Danny with wide eyes. They are coming. They are actually coming. Human ships respond to distress calls, Danny said. It is what we do. The next 4 minutes felt like hours. The vessel continued to fire warning shots, each one closer than the last. Danny weaved and dodged as best he could, but the old freighter was slow and clumsy compared to the warship behind them. Then, just as High Warden was lining up for a direct hit, something appeared on the sensor display. A human warship, sleek and fast, dropping out of faster-than-light travel directly between the Quiet Dawn and its pursuer. Commander Grant's voice filled the channel again. Vessel, this is the human patrol frigate Steadfast. You are ordered to cease fire immediately. Any further attacks on that civilian ship will be considered an act of aggression against the human coalition. There was a long pause, then spoke, his voice now uncertain. Human vessel, you are interfering with internal matters. The creature aboard that freighter is property of my family. We have legal rights to retrieve her. Negative, Grant replied. Under human law, any abandoned miner found in distress is automatically granted protected status. That girl is under human protection now. You have no claim to her. She is defective. She has no value. Why would you risk conflict with the government over worthless genetic waste? Another ship appeared on sensors, then another. 2 more human patrol vessels, arriving to back up the Steadfast. Danny felt his chest loosen as he realized they were going to make it. Grant's voice was cold as ice when she spoke again. High Warden, let me be very clear. The human coalition does not recognize the right of any species to abandon, abuse, or murder their children for being born different. That girl is now under our protection, and any attempt to take her by force will be met with appropriate response. You would go to war for a defective child. We would go to war for any child. That is what separates us from species like yours. Through the cockpit window, Danny could see the warship hovering in space, weapons still pointed toward the Quiet Dawn. But it was now surrounded by 3 human vessels, all of them with their own weapons armed and ready. For a long moment nobody moved. Then slowly the ship began to turn away. This is not over, human said. You cannot protect her forever. The shame my family carries because of that creature will demand satisfaction eventually. Try it, Grant replied. See what happens. The vessel engaged its faster-than-light drive and disappeared into the void. Danny let out a breath he did not realize he had been holding. Was crying. Silent tears rolled down her pale blue cheeks as she stared at the human warships on the display. They came, she whispered. They actually came. They do not even know me, and they came. The communication channel crackled. Quiet Dawn, this is Commander Grant. Are you and your passenger okay? Danny looked at and smiled. We are now, Commander, thank you. Just doing our job, Captain Cole. But I suggest you get that ship to New Canton as soon as possible. They will file complaints through diplomatic channels, and we want that girl safely on human soil before the paperwork starts flying. Understood, thank you again. You saved our lives. No thanks needed. Just get that kid somewhere safe. The patrol ships escorted the Quiet Dawn across the border into human space. Watched them through the cockpit window the whole time, her dark eyes filled with wonder. I do not understand, she said finally. My own family wanted me dead. My own species thinks I am worthless, but complete strangers came to save me. Humans who never met me were willing to fight for me. Why? Danny reached over and took her hand. Because that is who we are. Humans mess up a lot of things. We fight stupid wars and make dumb mistakes and hurt each other in 1,000 different ways. But when it comes to kids, we do not negotiate. We do not compromise. Every child matters, every single one. Squeezed his hand tightly. I want to understand. I want to learn how to be like that. You already are, Danny said. You survived. You kept going when everyone told you to give up and die. That takes the kind of strength that no number of arms can give you. The human colony world of New Canton appeared in the distance, a blue and green jewel hanging in the darkness of space. Somewhere down there, a new life was waiting for a girl who had been left to die by her own family. And somewhere out in the void, a high warden was already planning how to restore his family's honor by finishing what they had started. But that was a problem for another day. Right now, Danny and were alive and safe and together, and that was enough. The courtroom on the Galactic Tribunal Station was enormous. Representatives from dozens of species filled the observation galleries, watching as the case that had captured attention across the known universe played out below them. Sat at a small table beside Judge, the human legal advocate who had taken her case. Across the aisle, Elder, the matriarch of society, waited with cold patience. Behind the elder sat High Warden, his expression blank as stone. Danny watched from the gallery, his hands clasped tightly together. It had been 3 months since they arrived on New Canton, 3 months of medical treatment and legal filings and endless waiting. Now everything came down to this moment. The tribunal moderator, a tall being from a neutral species, called the session to order. We are here to determine the final status of the being known as, formerly of the High Family. The government claims her as property under species sovereignty law. The human coalition claims her as a protected minor under universal sapient rights. Both sides will present their arguments. Elder rose first. She was ancient, her blue skin faded to almost gray, her 6 arms moving with practiced grace. When she spoke, her voice filled the chamber like cold wind. Honored tribunal, this matter is simple. For 10,000 years, they have maintained genetic purity through the release of defective offspring. This practice has made us strong. It has made us a great power in the galactic community. No outside species has the right to interfere with traditions that have served us for. She gestured toward without looking at her. The creature you see before you was born with 4 arms instead of 6. She is incomplete, defective. Under our law, she was properly released by her family to prevent the corruption of our genetic heritage. The humans had no right to take her. She belongs to us. Judge rose next. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes, but she carried herself with quiet authority. Honored tribunal, let me be clear about what they are actually claiming. They are saying they have the right to abandon children to die slowly of starvation and exposure because those children were born different. They are calling this murder a tradition and asking the galaxy to look away. Murmurs rippled through the observation galleries. Elder's expression did not change. The speak of genetic purity, continued, but's only difference is the number of her arms. She is intelligent. She is healthy. She is capable of living a full and productive life. The only reason her family wanted her dead is because she might embarrass them at social gatherings. Turn to face the tribunal directly. The human coalition argues that abandoning a child to die is not a protected cultural practice. It is a crime, and it should be recognized as such under universal sapient rights. The moderator nodded. The tribunal will now hear testimony from the individual in question. Please approach. Stood slowly. Danny could see her trembling, but her chin was high and her steps were steady as she walked to the witness platform. She was stronger than she had been 3 months ago, healthier and more confident. but facing her father across the courtroom clearly took everything she had. The moderator said gently, "Please tell the tribunal what happened to you." Took a breath. When she spoke, her voice was clear. "I was born with 4 arms. My family told me from my earliest memory that I was defective, that I brought shame to them, that I was a burden they should not have to carry." She paused, gathering herself. "When I was 16 cycles old, my family took me on what they said was a vacation trip. We traveled to a trading outpost on 7. My father said he had business there. My mother said we would have fun together as a family." His voice wavered slightly, but she kept going. "On the 3rd day, my parents told me to wait by the cargo loading area while they handled some business. They said they would be back soon. My mother hugged me and told me she loved me. My siblings waved goodbye." Tears began to roll down her cheeks, but she did not stop. "I waited for hours. Then I realized they were not coming back. I saw our family ship leaving the station from a window. My brother was looking out at me. He was laughing." The courtroom was completely silent. Even Elder's cold expression showed cracks. "I survived alone on that station for 3 weeks," continued. "I ate garbage. I drank water from the cooling systems. I slept behind waste disposal units because no one would help me. Everyone knew what I was. Everyone knew I had been released. They looked at me like I was already dead." She looked directly at her father for the first time. "Then a human found me, a stranger. He had no reason to care about me. I was nothing to him. But he picked me up, put me on his ship, and told me that I mattered, that I was worth saving, that humans do not throw away children." High Warden remained motionless, but something flickered behind his eyes. "Danny Cole saved my life," said. "Not because I was valuable, not because I could give him anything in return. He saved me because he believed that every child deserves to live, even defective ones, even ones that nobody else wants." The moderator leaned forward. "Thank you, you may return to your seat." But did not move. Instead, she turned to face Elder directly. "You call me defective," she said, her voice stronger now. "You say I am genetic waste, but I have learned something these past months. I learned that my difference does not make me worthless. It makes me who I am, and who I am is someone worth saving." She walked back to her seat. Danny wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. Judge rose again. "The tribunal has heard testimony about tradition. Now I would like to call Captain Danny Cole to provide additional context." Danny made his way to the witness platform. He felt every eye in the room on him, but he kept his focus on. "Captain Cole said, please describe the condition you found in." Danny nodded. She was starving, severely dehydrated. She had untreated wounds on her arms from trying to fight off creatures that wanted to scavenge her body while she was still alive. She weighed maybe half what she should have. Another few days and she would have been dead. "And what was your reaction to learning why she had been abandoned?" Danny looked at High Warden. "I was angry. I'm still angry. I have been to a lot of places in this galaxy. I have seen a lot of species do a lot of cruel things. But I have never seen anything as cold as parents choosing to murder their own child because she did not look right at parties." "Objection," Elder said. "The human is editorializing." "I am stating facts," Danny replied. "You left her to die. That is murder. Call it tradition all you want, but when you walk away from a child and expect her to starve, you are killing her. And no amount of fancy words changes that." The moderator called for order, continued her questioning. "Captain Cole, why did you choose to save?" Danny was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Because she reminded me that some things matter more than staying safe. I lost my daughter years ago. After that, I stopped caring about anything, stopped connecting with anyone. Then I found a scared kid dying alone in a garbage heap and something woke up inside me. She needed help and I could help her. That was enough." The tribunal deliberated for 2 hours. When they returned, the moderator read the decision. The tribunal rules in favor of the human coalition, is granted permanent asylum under human protection. Furthermore, the practice of releasing defective offspring is formally censured as a violation of universal sapient rights. The government is ordered to review these practices or face sanctions. The observation galleries erupted. Some species cheered, others protested. Elder rose and swept out of the courtroom without a word. High Warden remained seated, staring at his daughter across the room. There was something in his expression that might have been regret, or might have been calculating how to undo what had just happened. But did not notice. She was too busy hugging Danny and crying into his shoulder, finally free. 3 years had changed in ways that would have seemed impossible on that distant day when Danny found her dying behind waste disposal units. She was taller now, healthier, her pale blue skin glowing with life instead of fatting with hunger. She walked with confidence through the corridors of the diplomatic station Haven, her 4 arms moving with natural grace. She was no longer ashamed of who she was. Danny walked beside her, his hair grayer than before but his steps still quick. He had officially adopted her under human law 2 years ago, making her his daughter in every way that mattered. The quiet Dawn was still their home, though they spent less time hauling cargo now, had found a new purpose. "Are you nervous?" Danny asked as they approached the conference center. Smiled, a little. Speaking to 500 young people from a dozen species is not exactly easy, but I have done it before. You have come a long way from the girl, who could barely look at me without flinching. I had a good teacher. The Galactic Youth Conference was the largest of its kind, bringing together young beings from across known space to learn about cooperation and understanding. Had been invited as the keynote speaker, her story having spread far beyond human territory in the years since the tribunal. But before she could reach the conference center, a familiar figure stepped out of a side corridor. High Warden looked older. The years had not been kind to him. His family's reputation had never recovered from the scandal, and the censure against practices had forced uncomfortable changes throughout their society. He stood alone now, without guards or attendants, just a tired old man facing the daughter he had thrown away. He said, his voice was softer than she remembered. Danny moved to stand between them, but put a hand on his arm. "It is okay," she said. "I need to do this." She stepped forward to face her biological father. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. "I came to apologize," finally said. "What we did to you was wrong, I know that now. I have spent 3 years watching our practices questioned across the galaxy, watching other species look at us with disgust, watching our own young people demand change." He paused. "Watching you become something remarkable." Studied his face. She had imagined this moment many times over the years. She had imagined rage and tears and bitter accusations. She had imagined him begging for forgiveness on his knees. But now that he stood before her, she felt only calm. "You left me to die," she said. "You and Mother and my siblings walked away while I cried for you to come back. I nearly starved. I nearly gave up. The only reason I am alive is because a human I had never met decided I was worth saving. I was following tradition. I thought I was doing the right thing for our family. You were murdering your daughter to avoid embarrassment at dinner parties." Flinched. "I understand now. I have had 3 years to understand. Losing you destroyed our family anyway. Your mother left me. Your siblings scattered across different worlds. The honor we tried to protect by releasing you crumbled to nothing." His voice cracked. "I was a fool, a coward. I am sorry." Was quiet for a long time. Behind her she could feel Danny watching, ready to intervene if she needed him. But this was her moment, her choice. "I do not forgive you," she said finally. "I am not sure I ever will. What you did cannot be undone with an apology. The nightmares I still have cannot be erased by your regret. The years I spent believing I was worthless cannot be given back." Lowered his head. "I understand. But I want you to know something." Stepped closer, close enough that she could see the pain in his eyes. "I am glad you left me. If you had kept me, I would have grown up believing I was defective. I would have lived my whole life ashamed of myself, grateful for the tolerance of people who secretly wished I had never been born." She gestured toward Danny. "Instead, I found a family that loves me as I am. A father who sees my difference as part of my strength instead of a flaw to be hidden. A whole species that taught me that every life has value, no matter what anyone else says." Looked at Danny with something that might have been envy. "The human treats you well. He treats me like his daughter, because I am. I am glad, truly." Stepped back. "I will not bother you again. I just wanted you to know that I was wrong, that I think about what I did every single day, that watching you succeed has been the most painful and wonderful experience of my life." He turned to leave but spoke once more. "There are other children, other defective ones being released right now on worlds. If you want to do something useful with your guilt, help them. Fight to change the traditions that made you think abandoning me was acceptable." Paused, then he nodded slowly and walked away. Danny put his hand on his shoulder. "Are you okay?" I think so. I thought I would feel something more. Anger, maybe, or sadness, but mostly I just feel free. They continued to the conference center. 500 young beings from 12 species waited inside, filling the seats with a rainbow of colors and shapes and sizes. They fell silent as walked onto the stage. She looked out at the sea of faces. Human children sitting next to young people, youngsters sharing rows with species she did not even recognize, all of them watching her with curious eyes. "My name is Cole," she began. "3 years ago, I was left to die on a remote trading outpost by my own family. They called me defective because I was born different from what they expected. They believed that I had no value, no worth, no right to exist." She smiled. They were wrong. She told her story, the abandonment, the despair, the human who found her and refused to let her die, the chase across space, the tribunal that changed galactic law, and the years since building a new life with a new family. "I am not here to tell you that the galaxy is fair," she said as she reached the end. "It is not. There are still children being abandoned, still traditions that treat some lives as worthless, still species that have not learned what humans taught me." She looked directly at a group of teenagers in the front row. Some of them had 6 arms, some had 5, one had 4 like her. "But I am here to tell you that things can change, that one person refusing to accept cruelty can make a difference, that the family you choose can be stronger than the family you were born into." She paused, gathering herself for the final words. "My biological father once asked a human why he would risk his life for defective garbage. The human's answer was simple. He said that where he comes from, they do not throw away children." Smiled, and there were tears in her eyes, but they were happy tears. "I am living proof that he meant it. And every one of you, whatever your species, whatever your differences, whatever anyone has ever told you about your worth, you are proof too. You matter. You have value. And somewhere out there, someone will fight for you just like Danny Cole fought for me." She looked at Danny, who was watching from the side of the stage with tears streaming down his face. "They said I was defective," finished. "He said I was his daughter, and that made all the difference." The crowd erupted in applause that seemed to shake the walls. Young beings of every species rose to their feet, cheering for a girl who had been left to die and had come back to change the galaxy. Danny watched his daughter take her bow, and he thought about Lily, the daughter he had lost so many years ago. She would have been proud. She would have loved like a sister. And somehow, in the strange way the universe worked, Danny had managed to find his way back to being a father. Not by replacing what he had lost, but by opening his heart to something new. Walked off the stage and wrapped her 4 arms around him in a tight hug. "Thank you," she whispered, "for everything." Danny held her close. "Thank you for reminding me what matters." Outside the windows of the station, the stars burned bright and endless. And somewhere among them, the story of a human who saved a child was still spreading, inspiring others to choose compassion over cruelty, hope over despair, love over tradition. The best kind of revenge was never violence. It was survival. It was success. It was proving that the people who threw you away were wrong about everything that mattered. Had done exactly that, and she was only getting started.